All right, hello everyone. Eric Marks, FindingMiddleEarth.com, and today we're going to do week 5 of the weekly Instagram photo critiques. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday evening. Hope everyone has a great Memorial Day weekend. And if you guys want to find out how you can get your photos critiqued, you can just post a photo on Instagram and use my hashtag, which is FMEcritique. Also, on a random note, if you guys have seen the past few videos of mine where I've been using the new ON1 Photo RAW software, there was a lot of comments asking about the software and where you could get it and if there was any kind of discounts or whatever. So ON1, the company, actually called me and said, hey, we want to give your viewers a 20% off coupon code. So if you use my coupon code, FMEON1, you guys will actually get 20% off of the software, which is huge. So thank them for that. That's awesome. Okay, let's go and get started on the critique here. So right when I look at this photo, the first thing I see, and I think a lot of you are probably thinking the same thing right now, the first thing I see that's distracting me away from the rest of the scene is this big hot spot up here in the corner. The sky is very blown out up here, big blob of light, and then of course the trees and everything here is just being killed by the light. You can even see it's even hitting the water and kind of burning out the water right here. It's hitting the rocks, it's hitting the vegetation down here. You can tell the sun was probably right over the photographer's head, just streaming into the forest, causing some really harsh lighting issues. So in the field, how could you have done this differently maybe to eliminate that? Well, number one, you could have maybe gotten a different composition where you could have zoomed in and just cut out the sky. Another option would have been maybe shoot this at a different time of day to where the sun wasn't so harsh. Maybe it was golden hour or an overcast day. And then of course there's always watching your histogram in your camera to where you're exposing for the highlights and you don't clip anything, and then you could just lift the shadows. However, here that would have been tough because it looks like you did maybe a 1 second long exposure to get that soft water. So in that case, I would have probably just tried to adjust the composition. So let's talk about the composition for a minute. According to me. So if I was here, as I'm looking at this as a viewer, I see what you're trying to do, right? I see that you're trying to use this path as kind of a leading line into the scene, and then the natural angle of the hill, going down here maybe, and then shooting your eye up to the waterfall. And that may work, for some viewers. For me, what my biggest issue with this is that the whole right side of the image is kind of chaotic, right? The whole right side is a big hill that's angling down the photo, and it's causing the trees to grow out of the hill at the same angle, which to me as a photographer looks like lens distortion, but it's not because it's just a hill. But to a viewer, I think it would just kind of look chaotic. It looks like the whole photo is kind of leaning towards the left, which in reality I know it's not because you're just standing on the hill. But there's so much chaos and there's not much like rhyme or reason to the right side of the photo. And then of course the waterfall doesn't have much water in it. So I'm having a hard time finding what the main subject is in this photo. I'm assuming you wanted it to be the waterfall, which is quite obvious, but there's just not enough water there. So I think this whole photo could have been better if it was just shot at a different time, right? Maybe right after it rained on an overcast day, you'd have a lot of water flowing off of the edge and you'd have cloudy skies. You wouldn't have to worry about the harsh dynamic range so much. But I see what you were trying to do. I see the effort that you put in to try to make it work. So thank you so much for participating. Excuse me. Great job. And then just, keep that in mind for in the field. When you're in the field, look through the viewfinder and really pick apart the scene with your eyes and your brain and think right there on location what is helping the image and what is taking away from the image. And if you can kind of pick the scene apart right there while you're on location, that's going to help you a lot for the future because then you'll be able to fix it right there on location. So awesome. Thank you so much for participating and submitting the photo. Let's go to the next one here. Okay, so this one, another waterfall shot. I was in kind of a waterfall-y mood, I guess, this week. So it's kind of the same thing. Right when I see the image, this huge, big, bright spot right up here. Okay, all this area. The sky is completely blown out. There's no detail. But because this image was shot so wide, it's salvageable. So by cropping it, and we'll get to that in a second. So all of this is blown out. There's a lot of blown out highlights right here, okay, in there. And then of course the water looks pretty blown out there and there. Not much detail there. But then all of this, all the green, the green rocks and moss is actually exposed really nicely. I like the color. I like the way the color rendered in this image. I'm not sure how much post-processing you did there, but it looks very nice. I like the contrast. The contrast is very nice from on the bottom half of the image. And all that bottom half it looks great. So I can't help but think that this photo would have been 10 times better if you would have maybe done a horizontal landscape mode composition instead of vertical, and you would have just zoomed in and kind of focused on the details a little more. So let me just crop it really quickly just to test that out and see what that would even do. So let's just crop this all the way down past these highlights here, and let's bring this up just to see what this would add. Boom. I think that just like fixed so many things. And you guys probably noticed by now, most of the time on these weekly critiques, just a simple crop like fixes the image almost completely. It like fixes it like 98% of the way. So think about that. It's really all about composition, how you set up the angle of view in your photo, how you set up, where does the foreground start, where does the background end. You need to figure out compositionally while you're on location what adds to the scene and what takes away from it, what is distracting. I used to have a bad problem where I would just look at a scene and I would say, man, this is so beautiful to look at. And I would just go click, and I just wanted to get everything in it because everything I was looking at 360 degrees was so beautiful. I just wanted to click, and I wanted everything in it. But in a camera, in a photo, when people look at it, they're not there. So me just going click isn't going to convey the emotion that I was getting when I was there, because I was actually there. I was looking all around me. I could see all around, and it was a different feeling than someone looking at a 2D image. So think about that. Hone in on the details sometimes to eliminate distraction. Let's undo the crop, okay? And let's talk about the foreground. So right now, I think the foreground, like all of this here, is you kind of have to think about this stuff as kind of like a puzzle, okay? All of this, there's not much rhyme or reason to the mossy rocks. None of it, I guess, leads me to the waterfall. It's not bad by any means. It is not a bad composition at all, okay? The mossy rocks, great. They work because there is a basic shape kind of going here out to the waterfall. Okay, so let me undo that and let's show you that again. So starting on this rock here and then kind of building here, there's a natural kind of flow. But I can't help but think that if you were standing like right here and you were shooting up this stream, maybe you put that stream in like the lower left third of the image, then I would have had a direct dominant leading line that took me right to the waterfall. And again, I wasn't there with you, so I don't know if that was even possible, if you could have made it over there. But I think that would have been a good option. And then, so when I said you have to look at it, the foreground is kind of like a puzzle, let me show you what I mean. So let's just kind of trace the lines here and see where these lines begin and end. So the natural flow of the water, let's look this way. Does this lead me at all to the waterfall? Not really. It kind of leads me over here. So let's go this way. So this one is nice, this short little line here, it takes me up. But then when I get here, I kind of don't know where to go. Do I go here? Do I go over here and look at all this? Do I make my way down here first? There's not much of a natural eye flow, I guess I would say. So that's why when I cropped it a minute ago, I cropped all of this out of it and kind of started right here. And let me bring this down again so I can show you. And did this because then we have kind of a natural flow. Now the very bottom left of our image is this line that leads us right here. And then all of a sudden we start to follow this, trickle this down, and we start to notice this nice line of rocks and stuff. And it just works a little better. I really like this log back here. I like that. It's pretty cool. I don't know why specifically I like that, but it's nice. It's a nice little add-on to the back that kind of adds a little bit of extra layer of interest back there. And again, I love what you did with the color. I think the color, the contrast, and the overall exposure is very nice if you minus that big hot spot, the blown out sky. And overall, very well done. I mean, the long exposure is nice, very nice effects. Exposure, color, contrast, it's all great and correct. Just watch the foreground. When you play stuff in the foreground, think about it. When you're on location, what are the natural shapes and patterns that lead you to the subject? And of course, that means you need to gather in your mind what is the subject of the image, and then make everything else flow around that, right? Make everything else flow to the subject. That's kind of a piece of advice that I had to learn a few years ago, that I had to, when you're in a photo, there can be more than one subject, but it all has to work compositionally and really bring interest to those subjects. There can't be anything distracting you away from the subjects. So great job. Well done. Thank you very much for participating in that. Okay, so now let's move on to the third image. As you guys always know, my third image is typically a kind of like a featured image of the week. So I'm not really going to critique this one that much. I think this one is just really nice. So let's move on to this one. All right, I'll throw up this person's Instagram that shot this. This is super simple. There's pretty much no complication to this whatsoever. Everything is pretty much a blue tone except for this white, the white boat and some of the white clouds in the sky. And I think it is just a super simple but brilliant photo. This is something that I can see hanging, on someone's wall in an office or something. The bright white of the boat is just a perfect contrast to all the blue tones throughout the water and the horizon. And then this nice bit of white up here adds that perfect bit of contrast that kind of connects my eye, white clouds to the white boat, and it all just works. It's one of those photos that's so simple, yet there's so many layers to it to have it all come together like this. I love that this person put the boat in the left third, that it wasn't centered. It's over here in the third. The reflection is nice. The only thing I would say about it is back here to the back right, there's other boats or something back here. There's just a lot of teeny tiny little distractions. So I would have just removed those in Photoshop. Not a big deal. If you'd have gotten rid of those and then some of the things over here as well, everything, it would have just been perfect. It's just flawless. A lot of people may not like the blue, but I think the blue tone works because the bright white boat. It just works very well. So if you guys have any questions or comments or anything, you can always leave those below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.